Okay, so we are going to be practicing two different watercolor techniques, and you are going to pick one of these when we get to our bigger painting. And so we're going to practice them both today and learn how to do them both, and then you'll know which one you like better. So to do this, you need watercolor paper, paintbrush, some water, and of course, a watercolor set. You will notice that your watercolor paper is thicker and it has some texture to it if you look closely at it. We call that the tooth. And the reason we use watercolor paper that has a tooth to it is because when we paint with this type of paper, the paint will tend to sit on top before it's absorbed into the paper, and it allows you to kind of mix colors together and blend colors together before they set into the paper. So that's what we're going to practice on this, and we're going to do our final painting on it. For this, we are all going to use analogous colors. So analogous colors are colors that are in a row on the color wheel. So yellow, yellow, orange, orange. There are some analogous colors in there. I could even go from yellow to red. You can really go to like 3 names if you want to: red, purple to blue, purple, blue, green. You'll notice in your set that you sometimes have more than one version of something, like red and like a pinker red. So you could use that with an orange, or that with a purple, because red is by purple and orange. So you could use more than one version. There's a couple different greens, couple different blues. So you can use all those in there. So pick 2 or 3 names that you're gonna use that are in a row. So go ahead right now and pick which colors are you gonna use that are in a row on the color wheel. Okay, I think I'm going to use, I want to do something different than I did over there. So I think I'm going to use greens and yellows. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide our paper in half. Just draw a line down the middle. I'm going to use marker only because I want you to see it on the video. You can use pencil. This is just practice anyway. Oh, put your name on it. Okay, divide it down the middle. And that's a lovely line. See, it doesn't have to be perfect. On one side, you're going to write the words wet on wet, because that's one of the techniques we're practicing. Wet dash on dash wet. The other technique is just blending. BLENDING. So on one side, I'm going to do wet on wet. One side, I'm going to do blending. So, wet on wet. Wet on wet means wet paint on wet paper, and we want to allow the paint to spread out and mix together however it wants to. So we need wet paper. So you're going to take some time to just paint with water. This is clean water. I'm dipping my brush into the water and I'm just spreading it out on this section of the paper. Anywhere I put the water, the paint's going to go. So if I accidentally get bumped and my water goes way over there, the paint's going to flow over there. It's going to go wherever the water is. So I'm just putting some on here. It doesn't have to be the entire thing. Since I use marker that's water soluble, I'm not going to paint on top of my marker because it will bleed into my colors. Oops, like that's going to bleed. All right, so I said I was going to use yellows and greens. So now I'm going to do that. I want to make sure this is nice and wet. I'm going to dip into this green here, let's say. And again, I'm never going to press in. I'm never going to use too much. I'm just putting water on top and just picking a little bit of color up with that water. When I set it down, it should bleed out. It should just spread out like that. If it doesn't, you need to add more water to your paper first. If it doesn't want to spread out on its own. So I'm really kind of just stamping. I'm not moving my brush back and forth. I'm just tapping it down to set some of that color down. Then I'm going to get some more water and get another color. I'm going to get a darker green. And I'm going to go into a different spot. And again, it should just blend out. If it doesn't, I don't have enough water. So I'm filling in some of those spots. If I feel like, oh, there's water kind of dried over here, I can just add more water. I'm going to use some yellow. Sorry, my arm's going to go right in that the whole time. Let me move the water over here. And again, it's kind of blending together, and that's what I want. I want to leave it nice and kind of messy looking. So this is what we're kind of thinking about. This might be behind some trees we're going to paint later. Do I like the way that looks? Here's the wet on what I did last time, purples and blues. Well, one purple and 2 different blues. So that was 3 colors. This is also 3 yellow and 2 greens. If you pick it up right now, it's going to want to run and it's going to make a mess. So we want to make sure we leave watercolor flat when we dry it. When you get to your real painting, you don't want to Put it in the drying rack because it's tilted. Leave it flat on the counter. Okay, we did wet on wet. Blending. Blending means going from one color into another, but overlapping a little bit, and then overlapping into the next color. But again, take a second to pick 2 or 3 colors in a row on the color wheel. I think I'm going to go red, purple, blue. And we are going to, I think I'm going to do this without getting the paper wet first. You could. If you get the paper wet first, then you know it's going to blend really easy, but I'm going to try to work quickly here. So I'm going to get lots of water and get some red that I know has lots of water in it, and I'm going to paint that along the top. The reason you might not put water down first is because you're going to get a more intense color. I still have plenty of water in there, but now I'm getting some water, and I'm going on top of where that red ends, and I'm trying to just use water to pull some of that red down into the next color. Okay, so my next color, I said purple, so I'm going to get the purple paint, and I'm going to go over this a little bit. So I end up with like a purple red, red purple, purple violet, and then I can bring purple into its own space. And I can get just plain water to kind of run some of this purple down if I want. And then I can switch into blue. And I actually have the color wheel where I can see it, so I can always like refer. Okay, blue is next. There's a lot of blue choices here. I'm going to go with this blue. But I'm going to bring that blue up to get in mixed in with that purple. And then bring the blue down with some water. Now, on your big paper, you might have to blend back into purple, back into red, go back the other direction, like if you choose to use blending, kind of, because you'll have a much bigger paper. In this case, I went from the 3 colors to at the end of the paper. But here I did do that, red to orange to yellow to orange to red. And you can see the difference between these 2 reds. In this case, I put the water on first. In this case, I didn't. But never was I pressing into the paint or scooping the paint. I was just getting the paint right off the top that came easily into the water. So that's blending and wet on wet. And once we have that done, you're just going to move this off to the side to dry today. And tomorrow, you'll pick one of these and the analogous colors you're going to use for the background of your painting.